Hello, and welcome to Season 7 of Long Beach Treasures. I'm your host, Harvey Keller. Today we're visiting with John Thomas, and we're going to check out his Art Deco home here. John, welcome.
Thank you, Harvey.
And how did you get interested in Art Deco?
I actually started about 4 years ago with a clock, a small clock, and I'll show you my clock collection later. I'm up to about 65 now. But I started with a clock, and I really learned a little bit about the clock's design, its architectural style, and step-back style, and I'll show you that clock. And that just kind of got me into the whole thing of architecture, the design, the streamlined look, the lettering, etc. And I just fell in love with Art Deco.
Are any of these artifacts in here significant?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the carpet is a reproduction from the late 60s of the carpet that's in the Roxy Theater in New York City. You can tell by the band instruments that are in this style. And this railing, and I have two more in the living room, is from the Argyle Hotel located on Sunset Boulevard, which was originally called the Sunset Apartments. And there's a photo of the Argyle lit up on Sunset Boulevard. Fortunately, the Argyle is still there, but the interior has been significantly altered from its original Art Deco style.
Now, is the entire home finished in or furnished with Art Deco?
Yes, my entire home is all original Art Deco
Can
furniture.
We just wander around a little bit?
Absolutely. There's pieces of the cabinet here is one of my prized possessions, as well as the mirror, but the cabinet is called a keyhole cabinet. It's designed, if you step back and look, it looks like a keyhole, and it's wonderful to show off chase and other chrome and metal Art Deco items, including the barware and ashtrays, etc. I'm very proud of this piece. These chairs, I was originally on the Queen Mary in the 1940s, and I bought them from a collector who collects Queen Mary memorabilia. And when I remodeled my home earlier this year, I created this little alcove. I wanted a seating area with this Art Deco French marble fireplace and the light fixtures, etc. Kind of a cozy little lobby.
Now, the floor looks very Art Deco also.
Right. The floor, of course, all the porcelain you'll see in the bathrooms, the kitchen, and the living room, and of course the entry tile here. All this tile work is, of course, current tile, but it's got the Art Deco design and it meets the colors, etc. I'll take you into the master bedroom first. As you can see, I'm a lover of the Queen Mary, so throughout this bedroom you'll see photos from the Queen Mary and other collectibles.
Did you retile the bathroom?
Yes, this tile's completely been remodeled. You can take a look at the shower. The shower has a high-rise building from New York. Step back in it. It worked up in the tile motif. As well as you can see the colors. The colors are very typical of the Art Deco era, which is the 1920s through the 40s. The wild rose or pink and cream two-tone with the black trim. The fixtures, of course, are reproduction fixtures, the toilet and the sink in this room. This, of course, is the master bedroom, and one of the things that I like to do in all the rooms is have a fireplace, at least a faux fireplace. So this is a wonderful fireplace. French club chairs that have been reupholstered to match the colors in here. One of my other collections are, of course, lamps and phones and radios of the era, and so very proud of this little ensemble with the phone and the lamp.
Do you ever feel like you're living in a museum?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, a lot of my friends and family, when they come to visit, they say it's a museum, and of course they always have to add that I'm the chief relic.
Now, are you ever uncomfortable when you have a lot of people here?
No, I'm not. Folks are usually overly cautious about when they come here, sitting on things and touching things, and then I have 7 great nieces and nephews, so when they come here to visit, they're really careful too. So generally speaking, it's not a problem. Thank goodness. You can see a collection of blue glass. Blue glass and blue mirror glass was really popular in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s for barware and clocks and mirrors.
Now, the Art
as well.
Deco movement started, what, 1925, the Parisian Internationale?
That's right. 1925 was the original date. Art Deco really came from the artists and designers of the late teens and early 20s wanting to move away from Art Nouveau, and they wanted to find something a little bit more stylized. So,
can we keep moving?
Sure, absolutely. Take you into the next bedroom and down the hallway here. One of my loves, obviously, is photography, and have a lot of LA and Long Beach photography in the hallway here, as well as more furniture. This is the second bathroom, one of my favorites. Done in the typical green and black of the Art Deco era, with the medicine cabinet and light fixture, and you can see the step-back canopy over the shower, which is typical of the Art Deco form, especially in bathrooms.
Now, you did that when you remodeled?
Yes, that was a little something we wanted to do just to kind of give the bathroom a little bit of style and flavor. Really happy with this room. This really turned out nice. All the fixtures in the bathroom are all original from the 1920s, the light fixtures. And again, the only reproduction items here are is the tile and the fixtures. Everything else is original, the lamps and the glassware, etc. Right down to the toilet dispenser is from the 1930s. So very lucky to find most of these items.
Now, Art Deco movement was a repudiation of traditional and...
Yes, so with the invent of car and everything moving faster, including oceanic travel, the design folks decided they wanted to really demonstrate that streamlined, modern style in art and in design. It moved away from the Art Nouveau style of the early teens. This is another bedroom with a lot of photography and art within it. Original Art Deco bedroom suite, and this is an American Art Deco bedroom suite. Art Deco was famous for what they call the waterfall, where the ends of the furniture seem to cascade down in front. And then, of course, it's balanced by other French and English Art Deco bureaus and armoires as well. Right down to a wonderful little Art Deco chest and table and chair that I use as a desk here. These light fixtures, I was able to find a matching pair at a dealer in Long Beach a couple of years ago, and I saved them for the remodel, and I really like those as well.
Wow, this is quite impressive.
Yeah, I'm very pleased. These two radios are very significant. These are my prized possessions as well. Again, I mentioned the blue mirror glass. A gentleman by the name of Walter Tague designed both these radios. This is called the Sleigh, and you can see the style of the Sleigh here. And of course this works. This is from 1936. And then the original Bluebird radio was also designed by Walter Tague. If you look at it closely, it appears to have two little feet, and it's blue, so it was called the Bluebird, and that's from 1934.
And they still work?
Still work, yes.
Oh. So now we're going into the
living room.
Oh.
And as you can see, my collection continues with furniture, lamps, mirrors, chandelier. These are original postered items that have been, of course, reupholstered over the years, a combination of French and English Art Deco. The railings on either side of the sliding glass door are continued from the Sunset tower that I mentioned earlier.
I really like the design of this couch and these two chairs.
Yeah, thank you. These are two of my favorite. Green is my favorite color, and so when I found these, I just couldn't turn them down. Another faux fireplace.
I must say you have a lot of seating capacity for guests.
I do. I'm very fortunate. The condo is about 1,600 square feet, and it's really a nice party home as well. And in that curio cabinet over there against the wall, you can see the balance of my clock collection that started this hobby of mine. I'm very, very pleased to.
Is there a resurgence of people interested in Art
Yes,
Deco?
I was just recently elected vice president of the LA Art Deco Society, and I'm surprised that our membership, it just increases. The interest in Art Deco has increased, and collecting Art Deco has come back. And not just the high-end Art Deco, but everybody wants to have at least a piece of Art Deco, especially here in Long Beach in their California Craftsman and bungalow homes. From the era, they like to have a piece of Art Deco within the home. To maybe offset or complement the Art Nouveau that they may have going in their home.
Was Art Deco a popular form of decoration in the Craftsman bungalow?
It was definitely a piece because the era of Craftsman bungalow homes, most folks that bought furniture, especially if they bought high-end furniture at the time, had the stylized lines of Art Deco within it. You almost always had, in that era, a floral pattern carved into the wood that was kind of left over from Art Nouveau. But certainly as furniture began to become more accessible from the retail market in the mid-30s, definitely Art Deco.
Stylized leaves like on
yes.
the background there. That was very typical, wasn't
yes,
it?
And that's called floral and fauna. And that's a really good example of that floral fauna look. This is a unique piece. I call this my transition piece. You can see that it begins with an Egyptian base when, of course, Egyptmania was big in the 1920s and 30s because of the discovery of King Tut. And that influenced design, especially when it came to Art Deco. And then it comes up and you begin to see kind of a Victorian look in this lamp. This lamp would have had a piece of glass within the top part here. And then you see this very Victorian shade.
That looks really old.
It's very old. I think this is probably the mid-20s. But you can see this is a great transition piece from the Nouveau style, influenced by the Egyptian discovery of Tut, and right up into the Art Deco, where you begin to get the Art Deco Aztec look.
And this is the dining room?
Right. Beautiful buffet. Again, this is the American Art Deco, where you can see that waterfall style again. This is a beautiful French table.
That's an unusual little clock.
Yes.
Grandfather clock?
Yes, thanks for calling that out. The floor clock is very unique in the shape of an Art Deco. Again, Art Deco has that very unique look of a kind of a skyscraper shooting up out of the bottom and then coming to the top, and then something on top to draw your attention, and that's really a unique, I call that my skyscraper clock. And the three-piece marble clock just to the right on the buffet, these three-piece marble clocks were very, very popular. They're mostly French, and I have several throughout the house. They're mostly French influence, and you almost always have some sort of a figure, a unique use of the marble, and a beautiful clock within it.
Tell me, is the bird Art Deco?
Yes, the bird is definitely Art Deco, and it's poised perfectly for the shot from the camera. Yes, that's what I call my low-maintenance pet, right there.
We're almost out of time. I just want to get a real brief.
Well, this is a remodeled kitchen, and of course, I may love Art Deco from the 20s, but I have to live today. So, of course, the kitchen and the refrigerator are modern, but the kitchen, the tile is reproduction tile to look like linoleum. The two-tone tile and paint within the kitchen is very reminiscent of an Art Deco kitchen of that era, right down to the knobs that are original. The knobs in the pools are original from the 1930s.
John, fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for letting us
Great to
stop
have you
by.
here today. Thanks so much.
And don't go away. We'll be right back with more Long Beach Treasures.
Local origination is an extremely valuable product, and it allows us to do a broad spectrum of programming. I tell my team that I want you to do programming about this community, but if NBC has done it or will do it, don't do it. But they're not going to do the local, game of the week. But I guarantee you that mother or father that sees their child on television is a great fan of this company.
Food's great. I can see 11 TVs from where I'm sitting. Great atmosphere, good service. Excellent place to come watch a game.
Lots of good sports, great television. football, baseball, and HC down at Smooth Sports Grill.
There's actually a nightclub Friday nights and Saturday nights. Fantastic DJ. We love coming to Smooth's. Great food. Got televisions everywhere. Nice place.
Welcome back to Long Beach Treasures. Joining me now is Guillermo Avalos, artist extraordinaire, who just completed this beautiful mural here at Bixby Park. Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure, Harvey. What we have here is a depiction of a photo collage of different photographs from the 20s and 30s and 40s. As you can see, there's photographs from that are in black and white. There's also photographs in sepia tone photographs and hand-tinted photographs. They're all photographs that were selected by a committee to represent some of the history that we have here from Bixby Park, from elements from the Long Beach Municipal Band to some of the great picnics that they had here. For instance, there was also a committee from the Iowa, there's the Iowa picnics, and also people from Nebraska visiting this park for reunions.
The first picture here is what?
This picture is basically just a picnic from 1928. And this is a black and white photograph that was hand tinted. So back in those days, they had this process of selling either postcards or photographs, and they had an artist hand tint these photographs. As you can see, there's some black and white images, but then they just to add some tone to certain images, they just went along with watercolors or a process used by using different tones.
Is this sepia tone?
That's a sepia tone photograph from 1926. And these are just youth playing at the park.
The band looks a little rigid.
Yes,
don't they?
yeah, they are. The photograph that we had was very vague, but it also was a hand-tinted photograph. And you can see their uniforms they're just, they actually look like police, basically.
I think this corner is one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, indeed.
I love the trees there. It looks so real.
Yes, indeed. One of our main important things from this mural is basically to give it that essence from that time. I did a lot of research on trying to figure out what photographs would go onto the mural, but also the background. The committee wanted to have photographs and also images that represented that time. And I was really highly influenced by our California Impressionist artists from that time, from the 30s. And we decided to go about making it look like fruit labels, California fruit labels from
right.
the 30s. And that's kind of essence that you kind of get, specifically because you have to decide on how to go about separating both the foreground from the black and white photographs, the sepia tone photographs from the background. And I think it just makes it decent. That way the viewer from a distance could see that and comprehend both images.
Now, you're a graduate of Wilson High School. Is
Yes,
that where you got started?
That's where I got started in 1992. Of course, I graduated from there. I had the opportunity, while I'm still in high school, actually, my junior year, a teacher there, her name was Donna Peltz, recommended me to a program that's here in the city of Long Beach called the Mural and Cultural Arts Program. And for a summer, there was a program called the Summer Youth Employment Training Program. And I took part into that program and learned a little bit about the process about learning how to paint murals, of course under the guidance of some artists, basically. And from there, I really enjoyed what I was doing. And 15 years later, I'm doing this.
And you had some help doing this, some young artists that you are
Yes, indeed.
mentoring?
Actually, that's what we did this summer. I had 6 youth from the Summer Youth Employment Training Program that took part in this project. And the whole idea is the same situation, is that somebody gave me an opportunity at that age when I was 15 to have the one-on-one understanding what public art's all about.
Another picnic?
Another picnic, yes, indeed, exactly. As you can see, everybody has a coffee tin cup in their hand, and there was a very famous man, I can't recall his name off the top of my head right now, but they had these, well, they called him the Tin Man. So what he did was every reunion, he would come out with these big pots of coffee and just pass them out, and people would have pastries and different things to eat, and just for gatherings.
The old swing set?
Yes, indeed. We have here as we wanted to show a little bit of the warmness of this park, specifically because nowadays, you can see, we still have children coming into this park, and we have a picture from 1925, and this is a photograph that shows different children at a swing set and with their parents in the background.
What's the gathering here? That's in front of the band shell.
Yes, it
there,
is, exactly.
isn't it?
This is the band shell that we wanted to show. Of course, there's 50 individuals in that photograph, and I really fell in love with the images, specifically of their dress wear from that period, from 1929.
Is this our old friend Herbert Hoover?
Yes, it is, exactly. He was here in 1928 campaigning for president, to become a president. Basically.
And another picnic?
And another picnic. This is a private picnic, and as you can see, they did the whole layout. They put out tables, and they had the fixings from different types of food that they had. But it was a family-oriented situation.
This must have been a busy place at one time.
Yes, it was. And this is why this park is really rich with the history, and it's important for us to kind of show that to our community and also the people who walk by this mural or drive by. That way they can say, well, a lot of people didn't know that this park had this great history behind it.
I guess the shuffleboard courts are still over there.
Yes, they are. Actually, they're on the back-hand side of the wall, but also they were here, right in front. Of course, they were removed back in, I believe, in the 70s, and when there's still a portion of that on the park. As you can see, also
shuffleboards are not as popular as it used to be.
Yes, indeed. Unless you're at a cruise liner or something like that. And then we have also another hand-tinted photograph from that time, and just showing the band shell and people gathering around the band shell.
And this is the Iowa picnic?
Yes, indeed. This is some individuals from the Association of Iowa who were visiting, of course, during that period, and just having their gatherings. And Long Beach is still a very interesting place to visit.
I understand at one time they had over 50,000 people who would come to the Iowa picnics, and they would have to put counties on the trees so people could find...
Exactly. I think as any importance, that's why Herbert Hoover decided to come down and visit Long Beach, because he knew that there was a gathering of different individuals from different places, from Iowa, from Nebraska, and various Mid-East locations to who could actually come to this park and have all these great gatherings and be able to speak to them at the specific site.
Are these the early Rockettes?
Actually, this is the Franchone and Marco Dance Company from 1926. And they were here visiting because there was a bird aviary here. And they were here just to do some promotional photographs because this park actually had peacocks and a variety of different birds.
I really like the directory you put here on the end, because people can identify what the pictures are all about. And,
exactly.
And it also immortalizes you here.
Indeed, I think that's the most important thing up there is seeing the description of each photograph. So I suggest that anyone who comes to the park who is would like to know more about the photographs could go back and see the details into the number of the photographs, where it's placed, and gets an idea of what each photograph represents. But I think more important also is the people who sponsored the project, and the youth and the volunteers who took part in this project.
And I have a question for
Sure.
you. Yesterday when I was here for the dedication,
yes.
everybody kept saying, is there some kind of covering on it to prevent
Yes,
distortions?
there is a varnish that's applied, and it protects it from the elements, from rain.
So
from
if anybody
weather,
would try to graffiti, you can just
exactly.
wipe it off?
Indeed, exactly. The situation is due to why we paint murals is also to deface graffiti. For some reason I've been painting murals for the past 10 years professionally. People have the respect to understand a little bit about what murals are about, specifically when community takes part in a project like this.
Well, I noticed that when you first started down at the end, somebody had hit it.
Yes, indeed. It was very funny that they didn't touch the photographs, but they touched the end portion where there was just grass. But I think, as anything else, they went around and did do create some graffiti here and there, but they had the decency just to leave the photographs alone. But I think, as anything else, it's just certain individuals who don't understand the process of what public art is about. Basically, the whole idea is just to educate people a little bit about the history of the park, but also to show them that we need more public art to be presented, and also where committee takes part.
Now, this is part of the Parks, Marine, whatever the title is,
Yes, it's
their mural program.
Exactly. This is from the Mural and Cultural Art Program, the City of Long Beach, Parks, Recreation, and Marine.
That's what I was trying to say. Now, how many murals do they have? Do you know around the city?
To be honest with you, I couldn't count them all, but there is an abundance of murals here in Long Beach, and they're mostly in different parks, also in schools. There's and different walls and businesses as well. But the projects where either an artist gets to work with the community, and the community decides to decide on what elements the mural should be about.
Is this one of the most ambitious in the city?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure about that, but I think it's important for us to just show a different element from a different artist or different perspective to show what we do.
And well, what's your next project?
I'm actually heading out to Anchorage, Alaska, to talk about doing a project for the summer coming up, so 2006, and then from there I actually just have some in and out jobs that I'll be working here for specific businesses. But then from there I'll just be either trying to see if I can either look into a project either maybe with the city or just privately to see what we can create, specifically when I can get projects where I can work with the community, because I think that's more important than anything else.
Well, this is most impressive, and I know it's going to add a lot to the park, and the city can be well proud of this and of you.
Oh, thank you.
And I thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
And that's our show for this time. Be sure and join us again next time as we uncover more Long Beach treasures. We always appreciate your interest in Long Beach treasures, and if you have any suggestions or shows that you would like to see, why, just let me know. You can email me at longbeachtreasures@aol.com, or you can always call Charter Communications. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your help. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Long Beach Treasures. I'm your host, Harvey Keller. At the opening of every show, you always notice the mosaic behind me, and today we're going to be talking about that mosaic because there seems to be some discussion about whether it should be moved or not, and forerunner of one of those is Anna Marie McGuan. Anna Marie, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me here, Harvey, and for having this opportunity to talk about this truly Long Beach treasure. Here we have what is known now nationally as the Long Beach Mosaic. We are in front of the most successful singular project of the Federal Arts Project era.
Wasn't it the largest of its kind at the time?
It is still the largest mosaic of its kind in the country today, and most people think probably the largest in the world.
466,000 individual pieces of tile.
Exactly.
Wow.
Amazing, isn't it? Very impressive. Now, there were close to 80 artists that worked in the creation of this particular mosaic. As you know, it is a WPA work.
Wasn't that to help the struggling artists during the Depression?
Yes. And this was the most successful contract between the federal government and a municipality, the city of Long Beach. And because of that, the region also got the most money. Now, initially, this mosaic was designed by a local Long Beach artist, Henry Nord. But then when it was going to be implemented, it was discovered that there were some flaws. So it was redesigned by Stanton McDonald Wright.
Who was a
And
major artist, American
Stanton
artist.
McDonald Wright is considered the California Dean of American Painters. He is the one that co-created synchromism, which is a style of painting that uses color and music. Now, at the time that this mosaic was created, he was also the regional director for the Federal Arts Project. And he and Albert Keane redesigned the mosaic. Now, what is interesting about this mosaic is that they had to come up with a new technique of cutting the tessera. Tessera is just the little pieces of mosaic or tile in order to give cohesiveness to the work, because you have 40 artists that were cutting the tessera and everybody has its own unique way of cutting and laying the tile. So they invented the texturized style. Now, texturized refers only to not texture as touch, but to the shapes of the different patterns of tile. So what happened is you have these artists that were working in the WPA building in downtown Los Angeles, laying the tessera. The, the pattern had been laid on the top floor of a building, and they will put together parts. If we could maybe point about, the parts, you see that there's different pieces, different scenes.
Right.
So each artist will take a piece and they will use their ingenuity in putting the little pieces of mosaic together. If you can even come closer, you will realize the intricate little patterns of cutting and how much ingenuity and creativity would have had been needed, to put it all together.
Now, this is in remarkable condition for being done in 1937, 38.
Yes, it is. It is. It has held very well. It has some little weak points, but nothing that could not be repaired.
And originally it was under the great Roman arch of the municipal auditorium?
Well, this particular um, piece of art was created as part of an agreement between the government and Long Beach to specifically decorate the old Long Beach Municipal Auditorium. The Long Beach Municipal Auditorium was completed in 32, and it had a wide blank wall that needed some decoration. So the federal government paid for the salary of the artist, while the city of Long Beach paid for the tiles.
Okay. Now, before we run out of time, the reason it needs to be moved, and it would be nice if it could be moved back to close to its original location, but they're going to build condos along here?
Yes.
It doesn't seem like it's big enough area for condos.
Well, there is 40 feet between the street and where the mosaic is located. So what is going to happen is this area will be enclosed in a courtyard.
So there won't be public access to the...
Well, there will be public access in the sense that this site will never be closed. The city will retain an easement. However, the land where we are right now will be privately owned. The city will only retain title to, of course, the mosaic and the land where it lays right now. But for all intent and purposes, the upkeep of this mosaic will be passed on to the future homeowners association of this new condominium.
And they could always make changes.
Well, the concern that preservationists have is that eventually this may become private, just because it's open to the public, as you can see, and it could become what is known as an attractive nuisance. And then, of course, the homeowners association will be forced to take precautions to protect their security, which is very important. And we are afraid that they may have to build a gate, and then the hours on when the public can come and enjoy the mosaic will be limited.
Now,
And-
when the condos are built, will it still have the visibility from the street it has now?
It's supposed to have visibility if you see all across the promenade. But of course, its visibility has been significantly diminished of what it was originally intended. This mosaic was originally intended to be seen from all Highway 6, which is now Long Beach Boulevard. And it was supposed to be seen from miles and miles on that direct line. And the mosaic would be where now is the Long Beach Terrace, kind of in the second floor.
That's where it would like to be moved to the Long Beach Terrace complex?
Well, some of the preservationists would like to see it back where it came from.
Be a great place. Visibility would be magnificent on Ocean Boulevard.
I agree, but there's also some considerations about cost of moving the mosaic, and certainly there's also some considerations about, damage every time you move structure of this massiveness. But it is possible. We are still in conversations, and nothing is final yet. But we certainly, what we would like is to keep this mosaic in a truly public building, because this belongs to the public, to the people.
And it really has a great deal of significance here in Long
It
Beach.
has huge significance, not just to Long Beach, but of course to the history of this country, of course to the state of California, because of its art significance, and also the artists that created this mosaic all were already well known when they were creating the mosaic, or they became famous. So it's hugely important to the arts, the modern art movement in California, and of course to Long Beach. And it's an honor for us to have it and to own it.
You know, one thing I like about the mosaic is how forward-looking they were, because this was in 1937. And if you look up there, you'll notice sitting on the lifeguard station a young man with blue hair. Now, I don't think young men would have worn blue hair in the 30s, but they were today, so they were very progressive in their thoughts.
Well, MacDonald Wright was very progressive. He was kind of ahead of his time. So, and he was the one that was directing the construction of this mosaic. One of the things I would like to see happen is a little more formal research in the history of this mosaic. I would like to get more formal research on each of the artists whose names appear on the tiles around the mosaic. And there's also information that the great muralist from Mexico in 1938 came to Long Beach to study and admire this mosaic. And of course, there's only, three great muralists from Mexico, and that's Siqueiro, Diego Rivera, and Orozco. And so it will be interesting to get more formalized research on their participation or influence on this mosaic. One thing I can tell you is that many of the artists that created this mosaic were students of Siqueiros, because he was living in Los Angeles at the time, and he was teaching at the Chinoir School, which is now, I believe, the California Arts Institute. And so was Stanton MacDonald Wright. So there's tremendous connection.
I understand the artist's name up here around the border
Yes.
that encircles the mosaic, and
Yes.
that they drew lots to see where their name would be placed, because everybody wanted their
be
name low
closer.
so people could see
Yes.
it.
Yes, all the names artists, they all were so proud of this work that they signed their names on the mosaic. And I tell you something else. You see those dogs?
Uh-huh.
Those are Stanton MacDonald's dogs. I think their names are Ming and Chow.
Uh-huh.
Those are his dogs.
Does it have any significance that, 98% of the tiles here came from Gladys McBean up in Northern California, which has
course.
been in existence for over 100 years?
Well, that's what makes it so important to the history of California, in addition to the artists that became very famous, not just in painting, but also in the movie industry. Yes.
So what's the next step here to preserve this in a more public place?
Well, we hope that it could be either relocated to a more public building, or perhaps a more public solution could be built around this mosaic.
Would there be grants available to help
Absolutely.
move the relocated?
Yes. This mosaic is not destitute. This mosaic has availability of many grants. One of them, of course, is the Getty Grant for conservation, and this will be an ideal candidate. And also there is the California Endowment for Preservation. That is the same type of grant that the city of Santa Monica used to move Stanton McDonald Wright's murals from the Smithsonian back into the new library.
Could
for the city.
redevelopment money be used?
Sure. As you know, there is 1% that developers have to allocate for the arts.
Right.
So that would be another option of funds. And of course, there's also the public. You know, if there's enough interest in the citizens to relocate it, they can also, donate money.
Okay,
That would be-
we've only got about 30 seconds, so if there's anything you want to really get in and hit home, why, now's your time.
I will just emphasize that this mosaic belongs in a truly public place.
And I couldn't
And
agree with you more.
Yes, and we must make every effort to keep it in a truly public space, and that it is never threatened by perhaps ending in private hands. Too much WPA art has been lost to in private property.
Anna Marie, thank you for joining me today.
thank you
and
so
I hope
much.
you have. I hope we're successful in.
We will.
Good.
Thank you so much for having me.
And don't go away. We'll be right back with more Long Beach Treasures.
Local origination is an extremely valuable product, and it allows us to do a broad spectrum of programming. I tell my team that I want you to do programming about this community, but if NBC has done it or will do it, don't do it. But they're not going to do the local, game of the week. But I guarantee you that that mother or father that sees their child on television is a great fan of this company.
Food's great. I can see 11 TVs from where I'm sitting. Great atmosphere, good service. Excellent place to come watch a game.
Lots of good sports, great television.
Football, baseball, and HD down at Smooth Sports Grill.
There's actually a nightclub Friday nights and Saturday nights. Fantastic DJ. We love coming to Smooth's. Great food. Got televisions everywhere. Nice place.
Welcome back to Long Beach Treasures. I'm your host, Harvey Keller. Today we're at the Masonic Temple here at 8th and Locust, which is being turned into the Temple Lofts. And last time we were here, it looked a lot different. And joining me is Denise, and she's going to take us on a tour and tell us what's been happening.
Hi, how are you? Thank
Good.
you. Welcome to the Temple Lofts.
My first question.
Yes,
I think last time we were here, there were no windows up top side.
that is correct. It was solid limestone. We obviously we were turning these into residential units, so light is an important thing in a residential unit, specifically lofts. So while we still wanted to maintain the appearance of the historic building itself, we did have to knock some of the limestone out. So all of these windows that you see up top were solid limestone, did not exist at all. The round windows that you see towards the top of the building as well did not exist, so we knocked those out. The small windows here were already here, so we kept those. And then on the sides, the north wall had no windows at all, and so we knocked out the windows where the windows and the balconies are. And then the south tower, we just expanded, or the south side, we expanded those windows.
Now, this building is designated a historical building, right?
That is correct.
Did you have to get permission to put the windows in because it modifies the historical structure?
Absolutely. The Historical Society of Long Beach governed a lot of what we did with this building. Obviously, us as the developer, Trimark Pacific Homes, we wanted to keep it as original as possible. I mean, just look at it. It's beautiful.
And the Cultural Heritage Commission gave
Exactly.
permission.
Exactly. And the main thing that they were concerned with is us keeping the facade, the exterior of it, as original as possible, and then the lobby itself, which we're about to walk into. So you'll see that we've restored it to its original state. As far as the units, those were converted from the original ballrooms, which were pretty ornate ballrooms, but on the interior they weren't so concerned with what we did as much as they were with what we did to the facade, to the exterior and the lobby.
Let's go check the lobby.
Absolutely.
Now, you kept this as pretty much as it was?
Absolutely. What you'll see here, we're stepping onto the original marble floors. You can walk through, and just something that I love to point out is there's fossils embedded in this original marble. So all throughout this floor, those are fossils. Isn't that neat?
Oh.
So we had the original medallions. Unfortunately, 2 of them were missing when we took over the building, so we've since replaced that with the presidents of our company. These doorways, the majority of them are the original. We did have to replace some of the wood doorways here. The paintings on the ceiling were restored. We had artists on scaffoldings on their back restoring the paintings.
They're beautiful.
And then we did some replica chandeliers that look like what the Masons had.
Tell me, this has 118. Is that a unit?
There are 4 units off of the main lobby. So we have this one, we have a few over here. These are facades. These are just faux doors.
Right.
They don't actually open, and then 2 in the back. So we have 2 units left on the main lobby here, and you can just see that it's a pretty grand entrance to your home to walk into the lobby.
Neat entryways.
Exactly.
With the carving and all the heavy wood.
Exactly. And then we have here what we call our Romeo and Juliet balcony. Not really used for anything other than when you come out of the lobby off the 2nd floor, you can look down into the lobby, and it's just a really nice.
You could put a little cocktail lounge
Exactly,
up there.
maybe little bistro tables so you can sit and chat. So it's a beautiful entrance. This is definitely the heart of the building.
The ceiling is absolutely magnificent.
Isn't it amazing?
Just really grand.
Yeah. So we have photographs in our office of the lobby back in the early 30s, and it looks exactly like what you see right now, pretty much. They
When
did a
was
really
this
good
built?
job.
Do you know?
It was built in 1928.
28.
And it was built by the Masons, and obviously that was their trade, so it's very well built. It survived the 1933 earthquake with minimal damage. It has undergone an extensive retrofit, and I can show you an example of that as we go through some of the units.
Did you keep the big old furnace that was down in the basement?
We actually had to remove that because we turned those rooms into the electrical rooms, but we do have actually 3 storage rooms full of stuff here in Long Beach that we need to go through, because when we were taking stuff out of the building, we recognized that some of it probably had some pretty, nice historical value. So we're actually going to donate some of that to the Historical Society.
I was so impressed with the size of it.
I know, exactly.
Where are we headed now?
We're actually going to head this direction, and then we'll need to just wait for the elevator for a few minutes.
All right.
But we do have 2 elevator access, and that's also one of the things that the Historical Society wanted us to keep as original as possible.
Okay, we'll wait for the elevator, and we'll go on up then.
Shall we? We can walk if you'd like, or can... Actually, here we go. Thank you very much. The 3rd floor.
Now, this is the penthouse?
This is Unit 615. This is our largest penthouse.
How
It's
big is it? It looks
2970 square feet, so just under 3,000 square feet. You can see when you get to the top of the level here, the roof of this building is actually domed, and most people don't know that until they get to the penthouse level here. So you can see the curvature. It has about a 23-foot ceiling height. The white bars that you see is actually just structural support for the roof because it is an old building. The penthouse levels all have mezzanines built in. This specific unit has 2 mezzanines, so you have 2 spiral staircases. And then what I wanted to point out to you here was now we're in what used to be the main theater of the Masonic Temple. So this orange scaffolding that you see up top is actually where they hung the sets and props from when this was the stage when they did their performances and
Now there's living space on the
There's living space up there and then over on this section as well.
My question was going to be, how do they get furniture up the spiral staircase?
Probably movers with a hoist. I would say that they're probably not going to do it themselves. But I wanted to point out the view here. We're facing south, so they have an amazing view of downtown Long Beach. You have Palos Verdes to the west. You have the mountains of Orange County to the east.
Okay, so now this catwalk connects the original
Correct.
building with the additions.
Correct.
So this is going to still be freestanding, so it
Exactly.
doesn't interfere with the historical significance of the building.
That's correct. That's correct. Both the north tower and the south tower are connected with these catwalks. If you look down below, it's a little bit a mess right now, but this is where a common area will be. So there'll be jacuzzi, barbecue grills, lounge chairs, planters, and whatnot down there. So this will be kind of the little common meeting area for people to kind of hang out during the day.
Is that their balcony also?
No, actually that's a balcony to the unit in the front of the building.
Oh.
So this unit has this one balcony. They all only have one balcony, actually.
It has a spectacular view, really,
Isn't it
when you
amazing?
stop to think of
I
it.
know, exactly. So day or night, they have this amazing view of downtown Long Beach.
Can you see the Hollywood sign? Is that
The
way?
Hollywood sign,
Oh,
we could actually check out a unit on the other side. You can see the Hollywood sign and Griffith Observatory.
I want to check out the bathroom
Sure,
for just a
absolutely.
minute while we're
Please
here.
do.
Because I saw the tile and it looked beautiful.
Right. So the
Oh.
penthouse units here get red granite countertops. We did some higher quality lighting and what am I trying to say here? The sink for the penthouse units, whereas the other units have wall-mounted Portiere sinks. So the penthouse level has the granite countertops. The other units have the wall-mounted Portiere sinks, and then your bathrooms and whatnot, or your tubs. And then the penthouse unit also has red granite countertops and stainless cabinetry, along with the Viking and Bosch appliance
Does
package.
this have two bathrooms?
Actually, every unit only has one bathroom right now, but what we're doing is offering a credit towards units of 1,900 square feet and higher to install a second bath. So the original plans only included one bath, but units of that size will have a credit towards a second bath. And then you can see the Viking stainless steel appliance package, the Bosch dishwasher.
All right, now this is a little smaller than the last one we were in.
This is the second to the smallest unit. The smallest is 791 square feet. This particular unit is 989 square feet. The appearance, it feels much larger because it's on a corner here, so it has a lot of windows, so it doesn't really feel like it's
What
under
floor are we
1,000
on?
square feet. We're on the third floor.
Third floor? Because they still have a relatively nice view up here.
Exactly, exactly. And they have all these windows, which is a huge plus, the amount of natural sunlight that they get in this unit.
In fact, the building right there is going to be receiving an award from Long Beach Heritage at their annual banquet.
Oh, really? How nice.
Beautiful Art Deco lobby
Mhm.
in there.
So this unit, like I said, 989 square feet. Unfortunately, this size right now is completely sold out, but you know, there's always a chance that something could become available. You can see that we, in the standard units, have the black granite countertops and maple cabinetry, still with the Bosch and Viking appliance package. And then we did some stainless lights in the kitchen to kind of go with the appliances. The chirping you hear is the battery in the
Oh, I
in the
was-
smoke detector.
I thought it was my shoes.
No.
And I thought, well, my shoes don't squeak.
Yeah. So yeah, we installed the smoke detectors and they're starting to go dead.
And everybody has a private balcony.
Everybody has a private balcony, and then the units on the first floor, the majority of them have a private patio, which if you wanted to, you could actually look down on the pond right now.
And then that would open onto the common area.
Right, exactly. So you can see over towards the front, private patios. These are planters. This is a common walkway here, but this is a planter. So there's a lot of planter boxes throughout. So the goal is whenever you're looking down, you have some nice greenery to look upon.
Now, are there going to be openings in the wall here for the catwalks to expand, or do they end right there?
They enter into the building. The top level right there, that actually doesn't enter to the 6th floor because that's just covering for the 5th floor there. Or, I'm sorry, the 6th floor, and it's just covering for this walkway up here.
So there will be a door leading into
Exactly,
this
they do enter into the
okay.
building. And so it's going to be open aired like that, and then they would just either take the stairwell up or take the elevator up and then cross over onto the catwalk to their unit. So there's 4 units on each level. There's 16 in each tower. So the north and south side has 16 units.
They really have quite large windows, don't they?
They do. They definitely do. The plus about the towers is regardless, if you're on a corner, you have 3 sides of windows, and the corner units have curtains of glass going around the corners. And then if you're in the center, you have 2 sides of windows. So right here, they have the north side of windows, and then they have a south side of windows.
Well, I must say this looks a lot different than the last time I was here at the building.
Well, it's been quite an undertaking. We've been working on this project for about 2 years now, specifically on the construction.
Selling well?
Selling very well. Yeah, we have about 60% sold right now, so
And
we still have quite a bit available.
Occupancy approximately?
Occupancy will be this spring sometime, so we're expecting March, April-ish.
Oh, that's not that long away.
And so we have several units still available. People can go to our website at templelofts.com, and we have our sales office at 415 Pine Avenue, and we're open 7 days a week. And we are giving tours of the building as well, so we can actually take people through a good number of the units that are very near completion, and then they can get a good idea of what's still available.
And do they have children? There's a school right across the street.
Exactly. We have a high school for the arts and the elementary school, and it's in walking distance. We have the bus that goes up and down Pine Avenue that stops right here on the 8th. So we're conveniently located to all the restaurants and shops and the Pike and everything that's going on down here in Long Beach. That's good.
Denise, I want to thank you for taking us on the tour.
Thank you very much.
I've been looking forward to seeing this once again, and I'm quite impressed.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. We're very proud of the project. I'm actually buying a unit in here as well, so that kind of makes a difference when people know that I'm happy to sell it and happy to live here.
Hey, must pay well working for them.
But thank you so much. It was a pleasure showing y'all around today.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
And that's our show for this time. Be sure and come back next time and join us as we uncover more Long Beach treasures. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Long Beach Treasures. I'm your host, Harvey Keller. Today I'm going to be talking to a most unique artist who works in a medium that is probably not really common to a lot of artists. She's a lint artist. I want you to meet Slater Barron. Slater, thank you for letting us come and join you.
You're very welcome, Harvey.
How did you get started in lint art?
Well, as a painter, I was trying to do my work out in the garage, very close to where the washer and dryer were. And as the dryer kept buzzing and buzzing from all the clothes I washed from 4 teenagers, it was annoying me. So I decided to start looking at what was bothering me, and the lint filter had the most beautiful colors. So as an artist, I could recognize how lovely that was, and I started saving the lint to see what I could accomplish with it.
Now, do you use the natural color lint, or do you have to dye it?
I use it just as it comes from the machine, or as it comes from my friends who collect lint for me now and bring it to me.
Are there some colors that's more unusual or more difficult to find?
Well, it depends on what I'm making, what I'm intending with it. And right now I need more black lint, because that's what I use when I wrap the sushi that I've been making. I need the black lint.
So what do you do? Take black clothing and wash it to get the black lint?
Well, I keep hoping that some of my friends have black towels and are bringing lint to me from their towels.
Now, I know you just closed an art show down at the Utopia restaurant at First and Linden.
Right.
And I went down to see it, and I was most impressed. You just mentioned black for the sushi.
Right.
The sushi rolls almost look like you could eat them.
Well, sushi is something that I really love, and so it seems to me very natural to make the lint for the sushi. And a few years ago, I got some lint from one of my cousins who washed a lot of cleaning rags. And as they were washed, they disintegrated enough to make the lint look like it was rice. So that began the lint sushi series.
I especially like the heart-shaped chocolate boxes. I thought those were really fantastic.
Well, I think in my heart, I'm a true romantic, and so making the heart-shaped Valentine boxes or candy boxes, I think are fun. But also, I think about the candy. If you get the Valentine candy from the wrong person, it all tastes like lint anyway. So,
I was reading your resume, and it was most impressive. You've been on almost every major network: ABC, CBS, NBC, Real People, and I understand you also was a guest on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
I was, and that was a wonderful experience.
Oh, it must have been.
Yes, he was very gallant. And sometimes when you're on television, the host could make fun of what you're doing, but he didn't make fun of it in a way that would be disrespectful. It was all in good
Good humor?
good humor, and I think it was a very positive experience for me.
Were you on for quite a while?
I was on much longer than I intended to be on, much longer than what I was told I would be on. He just kept me talking and talking and walked me over into the little installation I had set up and was just so kind and so wonderful that I enjoyed it.
Do you have any up and coming shows scheduled?
Well, right now I'm in a show in San Pedro at Angels Inc., a small gallery on 7th Street. And that work is work that I've done with rose thorns. And most of the work is about child abuse or things that bother me. So the thorns are part of the pointed objects show that's there.
Are you a thematic artist? Or
Yes. Yes, almost everything comes from some sort of concept. Sometimes it comes from words that I've already got the title for what the work should be, and then I get in and see if I can accomplish what I think the concept should be. So I use different materials. So it's sort of like the media is the message because certain materials are appropriate for certain kinds of work.
So you were an artist before you started using lint as a medium?
Oh, yes. I learned to paint when I lived in France, and so I had been painting and learning about art for about 10 years before I went back to school at Orange Coast College. And then while I was a student there was when I started saving the lint.
I just can't get over lint as a medium for an art source.
Well, artists in the last several years, last 100 years or so, have used very unusual materials from the time that Picasso did the still life with chair caning, where he used rope as a frame around something, and then we got into Marcel Duchamp, who did ready-made objects, things that he found, and then after that, Robert Rauschenberg used everything he could get his hands on.
Are there other lint artists around?
There are. There are other people who work with lint. They might work with it in a totally different way that I do, and I don't know that through the years anyone has been as compulsive about it as I have.
How long does it take you to complete a project?
Oh, sometimes that depends on how lucky I am at finding the colors that I need right away. And it depends on what it is. I've made so many candy boxes that eventually they start to go faster. So I might be able to do one in a couple of days. But it's the process. The process is not only finding the right lint, but spraying it, sometimes taking it apart so that it's very thin, making it stiff with some acrylic spray on it before I can even work with it to make flowers out of it. Um, there's so many different parts to the whole project, choosing the frame, the background for it. Um, so many decisions still to make that sometimes I have to hold up before I finally glue everything down because it's not quite perfect yet.
Now, do you sell your work?
I do. I've had very good sales this year, and it's my firm belief that if I keep the work priced low enough that more people can enjoy it, it deserves to be outside in someone else's home.
Now, are your sales from shows that you do, or do you have someone who represents you?
I have no representation. It usually comes from shows that I do. But it also comes if people come over for dinner. I do lots of dinner parties because I like to cook and I like company. And then a few days later, they'll come back and say, I saw so-and-so in your studio. I'd like to see it again and buy it. So,
Off the subject for a moment, but you said you love to cook. Is it French cooking?
very little of it is French anymore. I love to cook, but I'm one of those cooks who fed a family of 6 for so many years that I still cook a lot of our family favorites. So.
Now, you were a teacher also, right? A college professor?
Yes, I wouldn't call me a professor, though. I did teach college level, and I taught at many different schools in the area, from part-time at UC Irvine Extension, Brooks College here in Long Beach, Cal State Long Beach, off and on, different ones. Sometimes I taught at 4 schools at the same time.
Always in the art department?
Yes, in the art or design department. And for the most part, I've taught interior designers, basic 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, and color theory kind of classes.
What's your favorite type of art that to produce, to do? Would it be the length? Would it be a different medium?
Oh, well, it's sort of like your newest baby is always your favorite at the time. So whatever I'm working on just seems really important to me at the time, and I'm ready to start a whole new series probably by next week that's been going around in my head for years, and so I'm ready to do that.
Is this going to be with lint?
No, this is not with lint. This is probably a combination of painting and collage and assemblage work. So it'll be 3-dimensional as well as 2-dimensional, but all put together. I hope it works. It might not work.
I have a feeling it will.
Well, I'll have fun trying it anyway. That's the important part, is the enjoyment of working on it.
I believe you also were interviewed by Hugh Hauser, right? Were you not?
I was. Back in the 80s, at a small show that I did at Whittier College, and he came for the day with his staff and photographed it, and he has shown that piece from visiting to classics. He has shown that piece 4 times. Very nice man.
So you've been an artist for quite a while then, if that was in the 80s.
Oh, I've been an artist, I think, since the 70s. The 60s, I was learning to paint. I was more of a hobbyist. But once I was captured in the 70s, I've been pretty steady at it.
Well, what piqued your interest in becoming an artist?
Oh, well, I think once I learned to paint and I could combine the idea of painting and concept and ideas together, there wasn't anything else I wanted to do with my life.
Well, you seem like you've been very, very successful. And I see you really don't have much of your work here in your home.
Well, it's easier to live with the art by other people. So I've been fortunate. I've traded lots of art with other artists, and I've actually bought art from other artists. And I really enjoy living with their ideas as well as my own. And my own, I pretty much I keep in the studio.
I would love to go out to the studio and see some of your work out there.
Well, let's do that.
Let's go.
Okay, great.
Everybody knows My Mailboxes, etc. is the best place to pack and ship. But Brown said, let's take it to the next level. We're becoming the UPS store with new low rates direct from UPS and the same great people to help with packing, copying, and mailbox services. New sign, new shirt. The shorts will be here soon.
New low rates, same great service. Call 1-800-PICK-UPS.
Hi, I'm Ken Schrader. In race car driving, seconds can win a race. But to win the race against pet overpopulation, you need to understand the importance of spaying or neutering your pets. Every few seconds, hundreds of dogs and cats are put down in our country. Help fix the problem. I urge you to spay or neuter your pets. To find out how, visit pets911.com today.
This message brought to you by Friends of Long Beach Animals and Pets 911.
Founded in 1976, Polly's Gourmet Coffee is Southern California's most complete gourmet coffee store. Polly's has the best tasting coffee, freshly roasted every day right in the store, plus a wide selection of teas, an in-house bakery, espresso bar, patio dining, and more. We also offer Wi-Fi, free internet access for all of our customers. Our nationwide clientele agree, when it comes to coffee, there's only one name to remember, Polly's, 4606 East 2nd Street, welcoming you into Belmont Shore.
Working out can be intimidating.
That's why we created Executive Fitness, a private training studio.
At Executive Fitness, we work with you one-on-one, helping you achieve your personal fitness goals.
With personal training, you get a more targeted, effective workout, which saves you time and produces better results.
Workouts are by appointment only, so there are never any crowds and you can exercise in comfort.
And we're easy to find, downtown on Pine Avenue.
Stop being intimidated by big health clubs.
Call us at Executive Fitness today.
All right, this is where all the work is done?
Yes.
And I see on the wall over here some of the pieces I believe were at Utopia. We talked about the sushi, my favorite, the heart-shaped candy boxes. Those are all yours?
Yes. The one that's got the lobster dinner in it is one that was, the lobster dinner was from an installation that had 2 dinners in it, and it was about people in love celebrating at maybe Valentine's Day or such. So it was a Valentine dinner, and when I was framing things up for Utopia, I just thought it would be kind of nice to bring that out into the light of day again. So.
Now, can you do a small demonstration for us to show us how you work with lint?
All right, I'll try to make one piece of candy, and then I'll see if I can make some roses out of the red lint I've been saving.
All right. Well, now, I see that's the lint. Now, I cleaned out my dryer screen this morning.
Oh, okay.
And this is what I found.
Oh, well, that's a good color.
Is that the kind of stuff, is that the kind of lint you use when you do your...
Yes, but if you're going to be a lint collector for me, you need to not clump it up like that, but save it flat between pieces of paper.
Oh, okay.
Usually I save mine between sheets of wax paper, but I think I'll add that to this and make a roll of candy that might end up being kind of pretty here. So let's see what happens.
Well, that takes quite a bit of lint, doesn't it, to make...
Well, this would make a whole roll of different size pieces. So, so there we have a piece of candy that I will cut smaller.
And that's all it is to make a piece of candy?
Well, that particular style of candy, that's all that it took.
Oh.
Right. Right. But now, See, that needs to be sprayed and then it gets glued in, and I don't glue anything down till I really know how it's going to look. So.
That looks sort of neat, doesn't it?
Yes, yes. So yeah, see, we could use your lint. It's a very pretty pink, dusty rose.
That's from my sheets.
Oh, good.
So when I wash them, I'll save it for you.
Okay, that's good. That's a good color. So, let me see. I saved this red lint because I love the edges of it, and I don't know whether I can make roses out of it or not, but I will try. I thought the edges might be especially pretty.
You make the roses by just bending and folding and maneuvering?
Yes, and so that might work, but you have to have several roses on a piece together so that they stand up.
Is this felt or is this lint also?
This is lint that's been sprayed and then glued to the top of the candy box. And the reason I cut the top down was because the roses will stick up so high. I didn't want them to hit the edge of the frame when I frame it up.
Oh, I see.
So that might be the start of the roses. And put a couple in there.
So it just depends upon what you're making, what color of lint you use.
Yes, and what texture as well, because some textures just would never work for certain other things. So I didn't know if these rough little edges would work. So those would go down. There would be some other small roses to tuck inside, and then a ribbon would come around it. So.
Well, that's neat. Let's look at some of your other art that you have done.
Okay.
Now, this...
I was going to say there's still some lint over there with the portrait of the Queen. That's over there.
That's made out of lint?
That's all made out of lint. That's Mary, Queen of Scots, and she's left over from an installation that I did, which was called Escape from the Palace.
And this is most unusual. This is
recent work, and I call it True Romances. It's the stories that are in the New York Times on Sundays about people getting married, the story of their meeting, their romance, what their parents do about their wedding, and they're just such delightful stories. So I made each of the canvases into a bride with the veils over them.
How unusual. Now, this is also unusual. Is this collage?
This is collage, and I've used this entire series that's on the front here and a few pieces on the back, which are a Tibetan tragedy, and for me, it's about how cruel China has been to Tibet. And I've used prayer papers that usually are burned in the temples, and antique exercise books that I've had since the 70s, and heart-shaped rocks on them. The heart-shaped rocks are collected from all over the world when I travel. And then there's the Tibetan prayer flag. So it's almost as if the prayers of the Chinese are in opposition to the prayers of the Tibetans.
Is that a difficult medium to work with?
I'm very kind to myself when I work. I mean, I don't let myself get too carried away with perfection in it, and so I don't find it so difficult. Mostly I find it just wonderful to work with.
What other examples of different mediums do you have that you have worked with? I see some painting.
I have a whole series of paintings that I did that are about sending out thoughts or prayers out into the universe. And I use a texture paste underneath, and then paint, acrylic paint, and gold, silver, and copper leaf, and automatic writing. So the automatic writing is just there.
Is this real writing?
No, it's invented writing, and depending on what I'm holding in my hand, whether it's a brush or a pen, the writing might look Asian, it might look Egyptian. Somebody said it looked like Old Hebrew on some of the pieces, so
if I asked you to translate, it wouldn't work?
Oh, I might make up a funny story and tell you that's what it says.
But and I wouldn't know the difference, probably.
It wouldn't be true. Very tongue-in-cheek. But you could invent your own prayer to the universe.
I want to also show this.
Oh, one of my bird's nests. I started collecting bird's nests that fell out of trees, and I put tiny railroad figures in them, which set up somewhat social commentaries about who they are. So this one is called Specimen, and it's got a very heavy-set man is standing around drinking beer in this bird's nest. So. And the nest itself is unusual, so I thought they were both good specimens.
Did you do a series of these?
I did. I did probably about 15 bird's nests last year.
All right. This has been most interesting. I want to thank you for letting us come and see your studio and listen to your commentary, because you're a most interesting lady.
Oh, thank you very much, Harvey. You know, some artists like me, we like to talk about our work, so it's been a pleasure.
I'm going to have to thank my good friends Jim and Jean Preston for saying I have to do you on one of my shows, because they said you're going to be fascinating, and indeed you are.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Slater, thank you.
You're welcome, Harvey. Thank you for coming.
And that's our show for this time. Be sure and join us next time as we take another walk through history and uncover more Long Beach treasures. Hey, sailor, new in town? Hi, I'm Harvey Keller, host of Long Beach Treasures, and we're on the move. We're moving to Sundays at 6:30 and Tuesdays at 6. We'll still bring you interesting programs, profiling historic homes, buildings, neighborhoods, interesting people, places, and things. So join us every Sunday at 6:30, Tuesdays at 6. If you'd like to see a show or drop me a line, my email is lbtreasures@aol.com. And thanks for watching. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Long Beach Treasures. I'm your host, Harvey Keller. Today we're back in one of my favorite historic districts, Bluff Park, and with me is Rolando Cruz, and he is the chair of this year's Bluff Park Home Tour, which is coming up on April
the 23rd, and it is from, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. It's going to be touring 6 of the homes in this neighborhood. We were actually wanting to show my home today, right? Which is one of the homes from last year's home tour. So it's an old 1913 Craftsman.
And this is one of the more popular styles in and around Bluff Park and Long Beach, with the California bungalows and the Craftsman styles, because after the Victorian era was sort of on its way out, the Craftsman era came in, and all of these homes are about that vintage.
Correct, correct. I've been learning a lot about the different homes and everything in here. And I know this, the majority of Bluff Park was built like in the early 1900s, and so that's when Victorian was gone and Craftsman was coming about. So a lot of the houses have that influence one way or another.
Let's go check the inside.
Great.
Let's go.
Okay.
Okay, now this is your home here.
Yes, it is. It's mine and my partner's, Robert Collins.
And you said this was built in 1903?
1913.
13.
Correct.
Oh, this is beautiful.
Thank you.
How big is it?
Square footage, we're 2450 living space. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. It's got a large living room and a large kitchen, which were the 2 pieces that we wanted in a house.
That's a beautiful fireplace.
Yes, the fireplace was actually rebuilt about 10 years ago, and the prior owners from us, we've been here in this house for about 5 years, and that's one of the things that we left. It actually had some of the river rock, which is what used to be the foundation of this home, all river rock.
Can we wander through and check everything out?
Absolutely.
Now, did you have a lot of work to do when you bought the house, or was it in this great of a shape?
Oh, no, we did a lot of work. A lot of the house was, it had been modernized. I know prior to us, the owners before us had actually done all the structural work, which was a great thing. They redid all the foundation, all the footings, and they redid all the sides of the home to make it more structurally sound.
The coffered ceilings are beautiful.
Yeah, the woodwork up on the above and the doorways and the actual windows were all left alone. So that was fantastic. The hardwood floors themselves.
These are the original?
They're original to the house. They were under the carpet and they were in great shape. We had a lot of patchwork that needed to be done, but we've got some great wood flooring guys to take care of it. So.
And I assume the kitchen is in here?
The kitchen is this way. It is a very functional kitchen, and it's very modernized though. But it's still, you know, I guess you got to have the conveniences of a home. So
now, did you redo the kitchen, or was this?
The prior owners to us had actually redid this kitchen. We haven't touched it at all, so we've kind of left it alone since. But all the other rooms we've been able to work in bit by bit.
This is a beautiful, beautiful home.
Yes. One of the things that we've put a lot in here is you'll notice a lot of the vases and stuff that going in. This is part of my partner's collection of Bauer vases. He's got almost all Bauer in the kitchen. It's one of his loves. And then throughout the house, you'll see Catalina pieces and Brookwood and different types of vases collection.
The only reason I'm familiar with Bauer is because I'm a docent up at Rancho Los Alamitos, and they have some up there. So.
Oh, great.
Can we go check out the upstairs?
Absolutely. One of my...
is this one entryway, so there are 2 entryways?
Right. That's actually one of the nicest features of the house. You have the larger entryway to go upstairs from this area, and it has a round curved stairwell, very large area. The stained glass is also original to the house as well. That's been, I mean, so I guess it's in early 1900s when they built it, but it's frosted glass. I forget. I think they have a style or a pattern. Somebody was telling me a little bit about it, but it was something about horse hair being used to be able to make the stained glass. So
it feels, the ceiling feels low here, is it?
It is a little lower. That was one of the things that we had very hard time trying to find fixtures that we would feel that would be comfortable. So we were able to find some old mica fixtures that kind of match the style of the rose theme and what's being on the windows.
John, you better duck your head. This is a wide staircase.
Oh, it's also been fun and enjoyable because you can actually walk 2 people up the stairwell at a time. So.
And then you can make your grand entrance going down?
Yes, yes.
I'm just going to go in this way. I don't know where I'm going.
This is our master bedroom.
This is large, isn't it?
It used to be 2 bedrooms, and it was made into one larger bedroom because, again, one of the other things that we wanted in a home was to be able to have a functional bedroom that not only you could sleep in, but play on the computer, and do whatever is necessary.
I noticed that you've carried out the theme of the Craftsman furniture to go along with the style of the house.
I enjoy the Craftsman furniture. I think one of the things that we love about it is the simplicity of the lines. So that's why we've gotten throughout the whole area most of the stuff bought locally here. Most of it is reproductions. We still have some original pieces. The shaving stand is an original piece bought, and that was like in the late 1800s that it was produced. We've been able to complement with some of the house. This sconces here are, we were trying to put the ship theme since we're in Long Beach, but the sconces on the wall are actually from an old Victorian Canadian home and die-cast metal that we found at one of the Disney shows. Same thing with the, I believe that's called a Mojave towel, which actually has the same kind of ship theme. And all of our ship themes started with this one piece here. It was an actual piece that we found in England, and it's supposed to be early 1800s, and we ended up having it framed. It was just a beautiful piece.
These are unusual curtains or shades. Are they? They're very Craftsman.
Yes, one of the things that we did is I wanted to have curtains that could actually literally cover the entire window, and so what we did is we made a Roman shade, which wasn't arts and crafts of the time, but the textile is, and we had embroidery work done to match. If you can see the pattern on the actual curtain matches the pattern that's above in the wallpaper, which is a Bradbury wallpaper design. It's called, I believe it's called the Iris. So we took that same thing, and then I had her run across and make it so it actually looks pretty good. As you roll it up, the pattern matches, so you can see on the cross here, the same design exists that goes from here to here, so you can still carry on the same design. So
let's go on, and I don't want to miss anything.
Okay. One of the things that we did also, we actually had to refinish all these doors, all the doors, to bring them back of the same character. And again, finding the hammered copper was very difficult, but we found it in the one of the latest shows that they did again at Disney. They have a great arts and crafts show.
And this is a second bedroom?
Yes. We actually call it my mom's den. This room is actually hasn't been done too much. There's still lath and plaster walls underneath this, so we haven't figured out how to take out the wallpaper, so I don't know how old the wallpaper is yet. It's got a little nook and cranny in the back area that we've actually put a spare bed in there, so when my mom comes, she has her own private space to enjoy.
So this wallpaper was here when you moved in?
Yes, it was, and again, we believe it's original because it goes all the way up through the top, and you can see the lath and plaster. If you go upstairs, you'll see it through, and it comes up on the top. So it's kind of a paper or material wallpaper.
No, is there just one bathroom here?
One bathroom upstairs, and again, the modern bathroom. But we attempted to try to bring in a little of the character. You can see on made a little border of a stencil of dragonflies to try to bring some of the theme into it. We didn't want to take too much time. This was done again before we got the house. And then also different type of pottery throughout the thing is Catalina pottery, which is right across the ocean there.
And then this is the third bedroom?
This is the third bedroom. Still under works. We haven't done this one completely yet. This is going to become our child's bedroom once we get everything going, and still have a lot of work that needs to be done in here. But we at least touched it up with paint and put a little things just so that we can at least use it as a reading room right now, and then later on it'll become a child's bedroom.
This is really a nice sized house, and the rooms are all well appointed.
Well, actually, I think most of the rooms were about this size because, like I mentioned, that front bedroom used to be 2 bedrooms, and then it was opened up to make one larger bedroom so that, you know, for modern day, this is about the size of what most bedrooms would have been in the old days. So.
Well, since we've seen the house, let's take a mini tour of Bluff Park and show the people what they can expect to see on the home tour.
That would be great.
Let's go.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, let's start our mini tour right here with the house across the street from you. And this is a prairie-styled house, and it was built in 1914. It was the home of Frank Merriman, who in the 1930s was governor of California. This is a prairie-style type of architecture which was made popular by Frank Lloyd Wright, I believe.
Correct, and right now there still is the daughter-in-law of the governor still lives and owns the house today.
Oh, so it's been in the family for quite a few years.
They bought it, I believe, in the 1930s, and it's been in the same family since.
And the house here on the corner, I understand, was the girlhood home of Dorothy Buffum Chandler, for who the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion is named after.
I just learned about that today, so I'm going to be knocking on the door of the neighbors and talking to them about it.
All right. So let's go down First Street, and we'll pick up a few other places along the way.
Sounds good.
All right, this 1925 Tudor Revival home here is one of the more stately homes here in Bluff Park. And I believe this was built for the Long Beach attorney, Roland Swaffield. And he is credited with winning the original Tidelands, which brought millions of dollars to the city of Long Beach.
Yes, it's one of the beautiful homes that we see as we take our walk in Bluff Park all the time. And hopefully one of these days we'll be able to get inside and share it with everybody else in one of the home tours that we have of the area.
And the reason I point this out, because there's another one almost similar to it down the street, which has an interesting story we'll tell about.
Right, that's about a block away up, a little further down. We can go by and see it.
All right, let's go.
Okay.
This is another spectacular home here in Bluff Park, and I believe this was on the home tour before. This is a 1905 classic box, and this is known as the queen of the street.
Yeah.
The old gal looks pretty good for being over 100 years old, doesn't she?
Yeah, one of the older houses of our neighborhood, and right now we're going through a period that we're going to be see a lot of our houses having their centennial birthday, and so we're hoping every year that we're going to be honoring a house that's in its 100th year. So beautiful old house, and love to see it every time we pass by.
And I love this one here on the corner that we're going to visit in just a minute. This is the other Tudor house I was talking about.
Right. We also had, I believe this house was on the Long Beach Heritage Greater Tour 2 years ago, and we used it last year in our garden. So last year when you came by, had lunch, with the home tour, you were able to enjoy the gardens of this house.
And that's one of the homes I filmed for my TV show.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this Tudor we're coming upon. In 1921, oil was discovered on Signal Hill on Sarah Dell Morris's chicken farm. And after she became a wealthy woman, why, she hired noted architect C.T. McGrew to build her a home that would rival her attorney's, Mr. Swaffield, which we just saw a moment ago. This home has a billiard room in the basement, and it also has a shooting gallery.
And right now, I believe they're doing a lot of the restoration to bring it back to its glory. So it's under works, and we're hoping in a couple of years that we're going to be able to see all the work that's being done and look at its glory back in its nice.
And oddly enough, Sarah Dell Morris, after she became a wealthy woman, she married her butler, and they entered into Long Beach society together.
Very interesting.
And there's another house around the corner I want to talk about, because there are so many interesting stories about the people who used to live here in Bluff Park and built all these magnificent homes.
Oh, wonderful. Let's go ahead and we'll go around the corner here then.
All right. This house, although not that impressive by some standards here in Bluff Park, is a 1917 eclectic house, and I think one of the interesting stories about it is that W.C. Fields leased it in the heyday of Hollywood, and many of the Hollywood notables stayed here, including Clark Gable and Carole Lombard.
Right, and it's impressive definitely in size if you compare it, especially a lot of these houses on Ocean Boulevard are this grand and this large, and you could see why they probably could entertain their whole group and clientele. It goes way back to the very end.
It's my understanding that the ghost of Clark Gable still haunts his house. In fact, a friend of mine used to live in one of the apartments up here, and he said Clark Gable's ghost used to terrorize his cats.
So I hear as well.
Let's go on. I think this is coming up on a home that's going to be on your home tour this year.
Right. This is one of the more interesting homes as well. This was, I believe it was built in the 1960s. It still has all the original character of being a modern house of its time. So it's going to be an interesting house to see. I haven't been able to go through myself, but I've heard stories already that we're going to really enjoy looking at the house in the interior.
Do you know if this was an Ed Killingsworth design?
I am not sure of who the architect was, but I believe you're right.
There are so many different architectural styles here in the Bluff. That's one of the things that makes it such an interesting place to visit. I think if I had to pick out one area where I would want to live, I think it would be Bluff Park.
Oh, absolutely. Not only for the weather and being so close to the ocean, but the reality, like you say, there's such an eclectic mix of different homes, from the Craftsman to the Mission to the Spanish style to the Victorian, and different versions of each one that they mix so well. That's one of the reasons why we want to preserve the neighborhood as it is today and try to keep it with that beautiful flair of individuality, yet it just seems to be all cohesive.
I got another one we have to go by and visit, so let's continue on.
Okay, let's go ahead.
This is another impressive house here with the clinker bricks and it's a gorgeous home. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this was built for a Mr. Prisk, who was the editor of the press early on.
You know, from the first day that I ever came to Bluff Park and I knew I wanted to live in Bluff Park, this was one of the homes that I always loved. It just looks so grand and so large. It's got great views from the ocean.
And right across the street we have the Galaxy.
Right.
And because of this, Bluff Park became a historical district.
Right. They call it the Big Blue Sore Building out here. It looks more like a medical building than anything, but my understanding was that when this thing was built, the neighbors got really upset and they wanted to somehow stop it, but they couldn't because there was no law or anything to prevent them from stopping any other high-rises from being built. So the historical got together, the group got together, bonded, and created a historical district and trying to prevent any kind of other buildings. Nowadays, everything has to stay to its original character of what it was.
I believe the Juergens Mansion used to sit on that lot, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I understood that there was a beautiful grand home there as well, and it occupied the entire lot.
Well, they're safe now because they're restricted on what they can build and how they can build.
And we're still going through those battles, and fortunately with the Long Beach Heritage and the Historical Society, they work with us every time anybody actually starts doing any kind of renovation, that we work to try to keep it down and keep it to the same as it was, at least the front facing of the historical.
You know, historical districts can have their drawbacks, but they also have a credit too, because it keeps the continuity and the styles intact. And
absolutely, and we want to be able to say 50 years down the line or 100 years down the line that you can still walk and enjoy the architecture of all its time still in here.
I still have one more to do, so let's go.
Okay, it's a little further up this way, I believe, the house you want.
I don't know why, but this is one of my favorite homes here in Bluff Park. I know it was built for a mule skinner from Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
And it's big. It has to set on a couple lots, and the home is just a large home. But for some reason, I don't know, this is one of my favorites.
Well, I definitely love it during the springtime with all the roses and everything that show up here. And I'm an avid rose lover, and they have probably one of the best collections out here near the ocean.
You know, I don't know how accurate my information is, but I know not too long ago this house was refurbished. and I was told that they took each of those bricks apart individually, numbered them, had them reglazed, and then reassembled the house to look as it did originally.
Wow, that's amazing, Harvey. I'm learning a lot myself on taking this walk with you down the neighborhood.
That would be quite an undertaking to take all those bricks down and number them and reassemble it.
You got to be talking in the thousands of bricks here.
That would be harder than the Times crossword puzzle. We're getting close to my next house.
Great. Oh, okay, we can see it out here, over here. While you pass, you might even want to see this is one of my favorite homes. It's an arts and crafts home, and it also occupies a double lot here. It's a great large backyard, but this is again part of similar to my house. It has the roll top roof on it. It was also built in the early 1900s.
I believe it's owned by two doctors who live in Hemet.
Correct, correct.
It is a gorgeous home.
Yes, I actually got to take a tour of it, and one day I hope we can get this also on the home tour. There's just so many beautiful homes here that it's just so nice to just see what people have done back in the older days and what they're doing today to them as well.
I see they're starting construction on the project over here. This was another contentious problem here in Bluff Park. The design of the home, I think.
But fortunately, through all of the boards and panels, they're actually going to build a home here that's going to be to the character of the neighborhood. And we were able to bring it down and scale it down to size so that it doesn't protrude or stand out.
It's going to be quite a large house, is it not?
Absolutely.
More of a modernistic house?
Yes. And this other one here, I mean, one of the reasons you don't want to mess it up, it's right next to one of the homes that I believe you wanted to see.
Yes, this is it coming up, this white building here. This was built in 1919. It's a modern cubist type of architecture. And Irving Gill was the architect, and this is the only home in Long Beach designed by Irving Gill. He may have a limited number in Los Angeles, but the body of his work is up in the Bay Area. He was an outstanding, innovative architect, and he created a jewel when he designed this house. His clean, straightforward style provided a striking contrast to the flamboyant Victorian-era revival styles. Gill described his creation as simple cubic houses with creamy walls, sheer and plain, rising boldly into the sky, unrelieved by cornices and the overhang of a roof. This house was to focus on the ocean view, hence the staggered cubist plan. I think this house is totally underrated, and I don't think Mr. Gill has been given the credit that he deserves, because this is quite a remarkable house.
Again, one of the things that makes our neighborhood wonderful, seeing all the different styles that people build here.
Okay, Rolando, we saw your beautiful home. We've taken a stroll and checked out some of the eclectic architectural mix here in Bluff Park. And now, tell us about the home tour again.
Well, before we tell you a little bit about the home tour, I wanted to talk a little bit about the bluff here. That's why this is called Bluff Park. If you look all the way up and down, this little park here is on the bluff and right off the ocean, and right below us is the actual ocean and the sand.
And the Queen Mary.
And the Queen Mary. You get great views of everything that is being built in the city and all. As far as the home tour, it's going to be, again, it is April the 23rd.
That's a Sunday.
That's a Sunday right after tax season. So you can remember, after your taxes are filed, you can take some of that refund, hopefully, and come in to the home tour. Tickets in advance up till April 16th are $25, and they're $30 at the event. We only have a limited number of tickets this year, so we're going to try to limit it to 600. We had such a higher demand. Everything's going to start at the end of the bluff, right at the Long Beach Museum of Art. So that's where we'll be checking in, where you can pick up programs and everything.
And you have how many houses?
We have 6 homes designated. I don't remember them all. As part of the chair, I have somebody else who's doing that piece. But we have 6 homes for interior tours. We're going to have a wonderful write-up on a lot of the exterior homes here, as well as a garden tour of one of the homes that you can actually have lunch. So that's going to be provided by Olive's Gourmet Grocer up the street.
By the way, I know it takes a lot of docents for these home tours. If any of our viewers would want to be a docent, is that a possibility?
Absolutely. We actually need at least 100 volunteers for that day. It's about a 2.5-hour commitment, and we give them all the information to learn about the homes, and they can actually then help people and answer the questions about the interior of the homes. They can call Long Beach Heritage.
493-7019.
There you go. You know it. All right.
So for any, if they want to be a docent, or if they want ticket or just information, call Long Beach Heritage at 493-7019.
That's perfect. And we're welcome anybody who wants to come to see the neighborhood a little closer. And there's a lot more that we couldn't do in a 30-minute show.
You know, one of the things that's so neat about Bluff Park is the wide tree-lined streets that just make it such a pleasant place to be.
Absolutely. It makes these type of walks like we had today, Harvey, part of the best part of being here in Southern California.
Rolando, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Good luck on the home tour.
All right, thank you.
And we'll see you soon.
See you then at the home tour.
And that's our show. Be sure and join us again next time as we take another walk through history and uncover more treasures of Long Beach. Hello and welcome to another edition of Long Beach Treasures. I'm your host, Harvey Keller. Today we finally made it to the Queen Mary. We should have been here probably years ago because certainly this is the treasure of Long Beach. And joining me right now is Lavetta Kramer, and she's the executive director of the RMS Queen Mary Foundation.
That's absolutely correct.
Thanks for joining me, and thanks for taking me on a tour of your beautiful, beautiful ship.
Oh, well, I'm so delighted that you're here, Harvey, finally, but it's never too late to come visit the Queen Mary. That's perfectly all right. In fact, you know, in 2007, the ship will have been in Long Beach for 40 years. Can you believe that?
No.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yes, it really is.
And of course, this month in May, we're going to be celebrating the 70th anniversary of the maiden voyage of the Queen Mary, and it's a remarkable thing because it's the only ship of its kind still afloat. It's the only one anywhere in the world where you can come see this real treasure, and here it's right here in Long Beach.
And not long ago, its kissing cousin was here.
Yes, exactly. The Queen Mary 2 came in February, and it was a very exciting event. I happened to be aboard the Queen Mary 2 for that.
Oh, really?
And listening to them speak with great reverence about the namesake Queen Mary, it was very, very thrilling to see it all happening.
Well, where are we going to go first?
Well, let's see. I believe we're going to cross onto the ship first, since we're at the moment on the wharf, of course. And we're going to take a look at several of the beautiful rooms on the ship and also share with you some of the material from the maiden voyage from our archive, so you can see some of those real treasures.
Good. I can't wait. Let's go.
Let's go.
Okay, now what are we going to see?
Well,
Where are we going?
We're actually boarding the ship now, which is pretty clear, and we're going into the main hall, which is on the promenade deck. It was the heartbeat and sort of the center of activity for the first-class passengers. There were shops and writing rooms and drawing rooms and all kinds of activities for them to do, and it still is today. It's decorated in the style of the ship after World War II. And we thought we'd also go into the art gallery and share with you some of the fabulous art we'll be celebrating, which of course is 70 years old as well.
Is this considered Art Deco?
Absolutely Art Deco. Designed in the 20s, and construction was completed in the 30s, and then of course she sailed through the mid-60s, so it's really Art Deco as well as mid-century.
She's still a beautiful ship, isn't she?
She is. We think she's beautiful.
This main hall looks pretty much today the same way as it did when she first set sail in 1936.
You can see this medallion in the ceiling which is one of the original lights. Of course, they were
5 feet in diameter and weighs 400 pounds.
This one?
Yes.
Wow.
And of course, they had to be close to the ceiling so that when the ship tossed and turned, the chandelier would not.
And where is the art gallery?
It's right around this way. Shall we
Oh,
go?
you bet. I don't want to miss anything. When I get a chance to get a private tour of the Queen Mary, I'm all for it.
I agree. Well, here we are, and tell them a little bit about this room, Will.
The art gallery houses a representative amount of artwork that was aboard the ship when she set sail. It was said in 1936 when she set sail that the Queen Mary contained more artwork than many museums possessed. There were over 30 artists and artisans that were commissioned by the British government to create the monumental murals, the oil paintings, all of the Art Deco decoration that you see aboard the ship. Many people don't realize that the Queen Mary is one of the largest collections of original Art Deco artwork anywhere in the world.
No, you have them all in one room. These used to be...
Not all. This
But
is
these used to be
an amount. They used to be
around
positioned
the
about the ship, yes.
One of our plans for the 70th anniversary, as in our update for the new exhibits, is to move some of this artwork back into its original location on the ship. For example, in one of the rooms we have some artwork from the Veranda Grill, which we'll be putting back into that space since it's now used for catering events and functions as a salon.
I see some more. Is this another room full of artwork?
This is actually what we're looking at right here ahead of us is the artwork from the Veranda Grill, and that's a self-portrait of the artist, Doris Zinkeisen.
You know, I've never been in this room before. Is this open to the public?
Oh, yes,
Absolutely,
this is part of the
every day.
general tour.
Oh, really?
This was put together in the mid-90s, and it was artwork that we had in storage. One of our goals is to get as much of our material out and on view to the public as possible. But this represents artwork that was not displayed for some time. A lot of the art is in its original place on the ship, in the Grand Salon and the Royal Salon and others.
One interesting aspect of the room is that this is not an original room aboard the ship. This room was actually created from the space left from the center funnel.
When they took the smokestacks out.
Took the smokestacks out.
Oh.
Now, there was no need for them at that point except cosmetically, and so we gained a lot of space. For those who have been to Sunday brunch, on a day when there was an overflow crowd, they sat in the Windsor Salon, and there used to be a smokestack that went through that room as well.
Where are we going next?
Well, let's see. Why don't we take a look at...
do some archive material.
Let's look at some...
Right
Will has brought some beautiful material out of the archive that is from the maiden voyage of the Queen Mary in 1936. We thought that your viewers might enjoy seeing some of the original material. And we'll be displaying this, of course, when we get our exhibit together for the anniversary in May.
You'll have to tell me what all this is.
Absolutely. First is the program that was given to every passenger on the maiden voyage. It features some of the artwork.
In fact, that picture is right behind us here in the art gallery.
It's right there.
Very lavish and just a beautiful program.
All the intricate ironwork, scroll work.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yes.
And those are the doors that are in the Grand Salon. If you go to Sunday brunch, you'll see those at the end of the room, the forward end of the Grand Salon.
They were designed by a father and son team of artisans, Walter and Donald Gilbert.
And they have sort of a mythical theme of sea creatures and gods and so forth. That one opens out, I think. There's a picture of the door in place, if you will, and the mural above it is this wonderful scene, which is one of the few scenes on the ship that actually looks like the British countryside. A good deal more of it is much more Art Deco themed than countryside themed, if you will. It's a wonderful tapestry-looking painting.
Yes.
It's also the largest piece on the ship.
By Philip Connard.
I wonder how many of these are still in existence from people who sailed on the maiden voyage.
Well, you know, every now and then I'll get a call from someone who has one of them that they collected or a grandparent did or something like that, and they will return them to us, which is lovely. This one was returned to us by a former passenger.
Oh.
This is at the other end of the Grand Salon, and you'll see that when you go down there and see this in person. But anyway, this program is just so beautiful, as you can see. It's very opulent. Here's a rendering, actually, of the Grand Salon. It probably wasn't totally completed by the time this brochure was put together. And so they have a rendering of it as opposed to the real thing, which you'll see, of course, when you go down to that wonderful room. Anyway, what else do you have, Will?
That's quite a nice souvenir for the
oh, yes,
passenger.
Absolutely.
This is the maiden voyage radio souvenir.
From a broadcast point of view, that's kind of interesting, huh?
I thought you might like to take a look at that. She was the first ship to be able to keep in touch with both sides of the Atlantic through the entire trip.
She also had phones in the staterooms.
Yes, first.
So they could call back and forth and reach the operator.
So they broadcast from the ship?
Yes, they did on the maiden voyage. Mm-hmm.
What else have we got? What's this medallion, Will?
The medallion was cast by the Royal Mint for the...
Let me take it out.
Got it? Yeah. For the maiden voyage. And they were sold for £5.
There we are. Right side up is better. That's lovely, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
These are very rare, not something we see a lot of. This is also returned to us by a patron.
Souvenir passenger lists. We have them from the first class, second class, and third class.
Those were the passengers on the maiden voyage?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And you know something, the thing we're asked more than anything else is, do you have my name on a list, or my parents or my aunt and uncle, they were on such and such a voyage? Do you have something that shows that? Well, the archive does not include the passenger manifests. These are things that were given to the passengers, and all we have are those that have been returned to us. So we always ask people if they have these to copy them and send a copy to us, or to donate them if they can. That way we can make that more complete and answer people's questions better.
Who was the most famous passenger on the maiden voyage?
I would say Rose Kennedy. Mrs. Kennedy was aboard. Cecil Beaton, the photographer and costume designer, was aboard. The mayor and mayoress of Liverpool, the Marquis and Marquioness of Milford Haven.
So they had a few celebrities aboard.
Oh, they had, yes, it was a who's who.
And the anonymously wealthy.
And how much was the crossing? Did it cost? Do you know?
In 1936, first class was about $1,071 for two.
That would have been pricey back then.
Absolutely, in 36. Second class was about $550, third class about $335.
These are great.
Aren't they fun?
Where are we going next?
Why don't we go and see the Grand Salon in person?
All right, let's.
Perfect.
Okay, now we're in the Grand Salon.
This today is the Grand Salon. Originally, it was the first class dining room. This was the largest room ever built on a ship. It travels the entire 118 feet width of the hull. It could seat all 815 first-class passengers at one seating. The room is 3 decks in height, 3 bands of peroba wood imported from Brazil are on the walls. This forward bulkhead, this is the map that Lavetta was talking about up in the art gallery. It was pictured in that souvenir program. It was designed by MacDonald Gill. There are 2 tracks that you see in the center of the map. Inside each one of those tracks is a crystal representation, one of the Queen Mary, one of the Queen Elizabeth. Every day when you came in for dinner, those crystal ships were on pulleys, and you would be able to see where you were and how far you had traveled from the day before and where you were in the Atlantic. It also became a tradition that when both ships crossed each other's paths in the middle of the ocean, passengers would all go up to sundeck and they would wave in the direction of the sister ship as she went by.
Now that was Queen Elizabeth I?
That was the Elizabeth I, yes.
So the Queen Mary I and Elizabeth
Queen Elizabeth I, sister ships.
They sailed at the same time?
Yes, yes. It was commuter service, the way we are used to running trains. When the Mary would be in New York for 24 hours, the Queen Elizabeth would be at Southampton for 24 hours turning around, and then they would come back and cross in the middle. It was almost a 5-day passage, and each one was going the opposite direction.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, you could take the Mary over and come back on the Elizabeth.
And this wall down here?
On the aft bulkhead, yes. This, again, we saw this in the souvenir
And this
program.
is the doors we were
These,
talking about?
yes. This is Mary England by Philip Connard, the tapestry-like mural that Lavetta was talking about. Inset into the bottom are those bronze grilled doors sculpted by Walter and Donald Gilbert, a father and son team. It was through these doors that the captain would make his entrance every night for dinner.
Oh.
His table was $1.99. It always sat in the center of the dance floor.
You know, when you look around, there's so many interesting carvings and so much artwork that it's hard to imagine all of the work that went into building this ship.
The artisans were just incredible. The pinewood carvings that you're referring to, there are 14 of them. They tell the history of shipbuilding, and they were carved by Bainbridge Copnell. All of the artists that did work aboard the ship went on to be very successful artists and artisans. Some of them were just starting their careers at the beginning of their careers when they were commissioned. Several of them were famous. Philip Connard here was already an established artist. I believe Dame Laura Knight, who did that circus painting that we saw in the art gallery, was also fairly well known at that time.
And I would assume passengers, when they dined here in this grand salon, were in full dress?
Formal dress, yes. First class dinner was always formal.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay, where are we going to go next?
I think we should go up onto prom deck.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Now, would this have been the first class deck?
Yes, promenade deck was for first class passengers. This was an enclosed view of the North Atlantic, which lay about 65 feet below the deck. These are still the original teak wood decks. Spencer Tracy and his wife. She has a list of celebrities that have traveled on her, the likes of Greta Garbo, Marlene Dietrich, Clark Gable, David Niven, Bob Hope, Buster Keaton and his wife Eleanor. Coming up ahead, Winston Churchill. Churchill made 6 trips aboard the Queen Mary, 3 during the war and 3 after the war.
He looks different in that picture. Maybe he was younger.
Yes.
And this leads where?
We are going out to the bow of the ship. We're going to exit right here and go down a flight of stairs, and we will be on A deck.
Now, is this an anti-aircraft gun I see there?
Yes, straight ahead of us here on this deck is a anti-aircraft machine gun.
Is that left over from the war years?
It is an example of the type of artillery that she carried. No, it is not an original gun that has been here since the war. I wish I could say it was, but it's not. It is an example of the type of artillery that she did carry during the war, however.
And now we're on what, the forward deck?
We are going out to the bow, and I see Lavetta coming to greet us once again.
What's all of this equipment?
These are
here?
the winches.
Oh.
We used to be a mail ship, so they would have to bring in sacks of mail. We also had a garage on port side of E-deck where they could store automobiles. People would travel to and from Europe or America with their cars.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Did you enjoy the Grand Salon?
Oh, yes. I enjoyed the ship everywhere. You have a spectacular view of the city from this vantage point, don't you?
Oh, it's absolutely spectacular. At night especially. Of course, it's not too shabby during the day, but at night it's absolutely spectacular. By the way, how was the Grand Salon? Did you enjoy it?
Oh, yes.
Good.
Yes. I can even see the snow-capped mountains in the background.
Oh, absolutely.
Today.
We have a perfect day for this, don't we? What wonderful weather we're having.
Guess that's why we live in Southern California.
I think so. Well, and the other thing too is at night the view in both directions is just spectacular. And you know, it's an interesting thing, Harvey, when the Queen Mary first came in and was converted for service here, one of the big changes was to put restaurants so we had a view of the city. When she was at sea, it was very rough and people were a little queasy and they didn't want to be looking out the windows, out the portholes, if you will, at the water. So that's something that's new here in Long Beach since it's been here these 40 years, is the views of the city skyline. Our very beautiful, spectacular, growing city skyline, yes?
So in port, they had the restaurants facing the outside, and during the voyages, they would be in the interior of the ship.
Well, actually, on the exterior of the ship were the walkways where they would walk, but not restaurants. The restaurants were all inside, like the Grand Salon and the Queen's Salon and others. They didn't have outside views from those. In fact, they tinted the mirrors pink so people would look more peachy than green. We don't have that kind of rough weather here in Long Beach Harbor.
Long Beach looks beautiful from here, doesn't it?
Oh, it's great. Of course, we have all the traffic here as well, which is fun for our guests to watch. The shuttles that run back and forth, and the occasional dolphin and whale that wanders in. It's lovely.
All right, where are we going to go next?
I believe we're going up to the captain's quarters up on the bow.
Oh, good. I haven't been
there. Up on the bridge. That'll be great. You'll love that.
All right, let's go.
Let's go.
Before we go to the bridge, let me show you the captain's quarters, which are on display to the public here at the forward end of the ship. In front of us here is the staff captain's bedroom and sitting room. The staff captain was the second in command if anything should happen to the captain and he was not able to continue his duties. The staff captain would take over.
Those are quite nice quarters.
And next door here was the captain's day room. This is where he would entertain royalty, movie stars, sports figures, politicians.
So he would bring passengers up to his quarters?
For cocktails, yes. This was the captain's bedroom.
That's quite nice. He did all right for himself.
He certainly did. Over the 31-year history, we had 33 captains.
Wow. Now this is the engine room?
This is the bridge. This is the forward section of the ship, the driver's seat for laymen. This is where the captain and his men would steer the course of the Queen Mary.
Now, are these funnel-looking things? Is that how they used to communicate?
They would communicate, yes, to the quarters below. All of the telephones that you see here, the Laudaphones, they were capable of taking out any exterior noise that was behind you while you were talking so that they could communicate with the engine room at the very stern of the ship down below. The men up here who were steering had to stay in constant communication with the men down below who were powering the ship.
Now, in the movies I've seen, the equipment here, that's how they would slow and speed.
That's how they would send the directions, their telegraphs.
How come they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
All different areas. They had to communicate the same information to different areas of the ship.
So all 5 would have to be at the same speed at the same time, so you'd have 5 different operators communicating. They had quite a view up here, didn't they?
Absolutely. If you look straight ahead of us is the crow's nest. Why don't you come around here?
Oh, way up there?
All the way up there, yes.
And what was the crow's nest for?
Lookout.
People would climb up there and they would be a lookout
There
up
would
there?
be a crew member. Yes, absolutely.
And they would climb up those rope ladders?
No, there's a ladder inside. I believe it's 110 or 116 rungs all the way up from B deck forward up to the crow's nest.
Can you imagine the view from up there?
Yes. You know, there's a journal in our archives of a soldier during the war who was stationed up there, and the ship was rocking back and forth so badly that he said when he would look straight down from the crow's nest, he would not see the deck of the ship, he would see the water, which meant they were listing over to one side.
Okay, now, Will, where are we going?
This is today the Queen's Salon. It was originally the first-class main lounge. This is where first-class passengers would come to spend their days, listening to classical music, reading. Sometimes there'd be a live pianist up on the stage. Late in the afternoon, there'd be a small orchestra.
Do I see 3 fireplaces in here?
Yes, 3 fireplaces, 2 on the sides, 1 on the forward bulkhead. They are electric for fire prevention measures. And the mantel pieces of the 3 fireplaces, along with the 8 lighting urns.
Those are beautiful.
They have all been carved from the same block of gold onyx to ensure the same color and the same grain.
This is quite ornate in here, isn't it?
Yes, the ship is known as the Ship of Beautiful Woods, and I think this room is probably the best example of that. The ceilings are Mazur birch, the walls are maple burr, the columns are cherry mahogany or Macquarie, imported from West Africa.
Do you know how many this room would hold?
Today, this room seats 400 for dinner.
Wow.
That's a sit-down dinner. It can do a few more if it's just a buffet.
It would have been grand to travel in this ship, cruising the ocean in such luxury.
Absolutely. It would have been furnished with overstuffed couches and chairs, low coffee tables, large throw rugs that used to snap into the floor so that they wouldn't shift during rough weather. The second largest piece of artwork aboard the ship is here on the forward bulkhead. This is entitled Unicorns in Battle by Alfred J. Oakley and Gilbert Bays. It's a carved gesso panel. Gesso is a process where artists mix plaster of Paris with glue. It's spread over a tough wooden base. The design or the picture is then carved into it. It's then gilded with silver or gold leaf. This happens to be gilded with both silver and gold leaf over a cream-colored background. The story behind the mural is that in mythology, if 2 unicorns battle, should their horns ever touch, it would create beautiful music.
I noticed the panel doors open. Was
yes,
this,
there are 5 cutout squares in the center of the mural. Behind the mural was a projection booth.
So they showed movies in here?
Yes, late at night they would open those panels and they would project movies onto a screen which would be set up on the stage at the opposite end, and they used this as the first-class cinema.
All right, I think our last stop is going to be the observation
bar.
Well, let's go check it out. It's my favorite place.
Mine too.
Okay, this is my favorite spot on the ship.
The observation bar. Shall we pull up a seat?
Hey, let's do.
Oh, excellent.
I'll have a martini up, please.
Sorry, we're not open yet. That sounds really good.
All right, this is Art Deco again.
And this room is probably one of the most original rooms on the ship. A couple of changes that occurred in here. It was made larger. That outside band used to be part of the promenade deck. And we also opened a door to the outside because the local patrons wanted to enjoy the night air out on the deck.
Do you have entertainment here at night?
Yes, we do. We have entertainment here most nights, and for dancing and listening. And this room also has some of the most wonderful artwork on the ship. This beautiful mural has a great sense of humor. Why don't you tell me a little about it?
I think she had too much to drink.
I think so too.
This original mural by Alfred Thompson is entitled Royal Jubilee Week, and it depicts the celebration of King George V's 25th year as king.
No, it was a party.
Was this just for first-class passengers?
In the early years.
Originally, it was. Yes.
And then it was also used by third-class passengers later in its career, which is third is right below us in this area of the ship. And during the war, there were actually it was just filled with bunks, and there were soldiers billeted in this bar. So it's had many uses through the years.
Now, on the maiden voyage, or when the Queen Mary sailed, and if you got the cheap seats, could you come up all the way to the upper deck, or were you limited to a certain deck?
Third class was located at the forward end of the ship, pretty much top to bottom. They did have an area that they could go outside.
But they couldn't come in
but
here.
They couldn't come in here. Second class was at the stern of the ship, the back end, and first class was in the middle of the ship because they got the smoothest ride. That's what determined the classes.
Did diners other than first class have to dress for dinner also?
I think generally in society at that time, people automatically took it for granted that they would dress.
They would wear
for
the
dinner.
best they had with them to the dinner on the ship, whether it was third class or second class or first.
The men were always in jackets, sports jackets or suit jackets and ties. The ladies always had hat and gloves.
And how long did it take to make the crossing?
About 4.5 days.
That would be neat.
Yes, and of course you couldn't fly. There weren't planes then. I think the beauty about the ship is throughout her history, from the maiden voyage to now, here it's these 70 years. She's done so many things in her career, and here in Long Beach still continues to serve the community and be an active place for social gatherings, whether it's having dinner or staying aboard or having a wedding or a catered event or a convention or a carnival or whatever happens here.
And I hope this treasure stays here forever.
And it will, and I think that's the message we wanted to tell Long Beach is that she's your treasure. Come enjoy her. It's all aboard the Queen Mary. It's all right here.
Lavetta, Will, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, it's great having you here.
This is a great, great ship. And as I said, this is probably the treasure of Long Beach.
Well, and don't make it so long next time. Come back sooner.
Because I'm sure there's a lot you can show me.
Absolutely.
I'd love to.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for watching. That's our show for this time. Come back next month and take another walk through history and uncover more Long Beach treasures.